Hello and welcome. We are Wild Art Fly Free and each week we build story bits. And, then, after we collect a few story bits, we put them together to form rough story ideas. And, ultimately, what we want to build is a fantasy world. That is, Opsipyadoc. Our fantasy world that is made out of stories. We have been doing this for a while and we have some plots and quite a few characters. Of course, we have some places where the stories can happen in. We call the places settings, but you probably know that, but it doesn't hurt to make sure. I hope. Anyway, we have been thinking that we should think up some bigger story ideas. We could use some general political or social ideas that will help tie our stories together. Am I making any sense? I think that, maybe what we want are some bigger stories that affect the smaller stories. Or, something like that. Anyway, we aren't sure how any of this is going to work out. We haven't done anything like this before and we certainly have never built a fantasy world out of stories before. But that's the point. Because, as we say near the start of all of our videos, we are Wild Art Fly Free and we are all about creativity. And, as we have said many times before as well, creativity is a path from chaos to perfection, knowing that perfection is fragile, temporary, impossible and prone to explode. Well, that's the key then, isn't it? We start with random chaos and then we try to make sense of it. We have lots of ideas and none of them are perfect, yet. So, we make mistakes. But then, from the mistakes we learn. That's our path to the explosive perfection that we seek. We play with ideas and we learn. We learn about ideas and we play. And, well, stuff like that. Anyway, today we are building on two of the ideas that we recently came up with. One is about artificial intelligences made from computers. The other is artificial intelligences made from biochemical processes. So, let's see what these ideas grow into today. Okay?
At one time, Chip did not exist, and at one time, there was no life. Then there was life. Please don't get me wrong. There was plenty of life in the area. There was life above, below, and in every direction. In fact, at the time, there was life everywhere but in the place. And now there was life, even in the place. Now we want to know, where is the place that had no life, but then had life, but first. So, first we need to ask ourselves, what is life? We might say it needs to be based on DNA. Well, this isn't that kind of life. There are rules for what is life. One of the rules for the question, what is life, says that, life consumes energy to live. Another rule is that life begets life. Well, these are pretty good rules for what is life, except that according to these rules, fire would be life. Anyway, Another important question is, what is a person? Does a person need to be life? Could fire be a person? No. We aren't going that way. Just forget that I asked that. Except, maybe the person who we are calling Chip. Well. Maybe the idea that Chip is a person would be just as strange, or should I say, just as alien? So, then, it must be time to explain what we are talking about. So, let's talk about that. About Chip. So, Chip came out of a ship crash. The ship didn't crash on some ocean or even a lake. This ship crashed in the middle of a meadow. Well, this ship fell out of the sky. This is unusual for this part of Western Aldla, or even every other part of the world of Opsipidok. In fact, no ship had ever fallen out of the sky before. We aren't going to talk about the future of Opsipidok for now, so, for now, crashing spaceships are very unusual. This spaceship was run by computers. It didn't have any life on board, not even alien life. Just computers. And then, this spaceship became a pile of smashed up computers. And this pile of smashed up computers was smoldering and glowing, and maybe even affected by the magic of the planet in some way. And then, inside the smoldering, glowing pile of computer bits, there was life. Or was there? Well, it still depends on what you call life, but the life inside the smoldering, glowing, pile of computer bits would insist that it was life. And that's where Chip's story starts. And, it would take some time, but gradually, Chip would work out how to beget more Chip-like beings. And the Chip-like beings would all consume more energy and even beget more Chip-like beings, until the number of Chip-like beings grew to a number well in excess of 3. Okay. Including the original Chip, there were 4 Chip-like beings. And they all insisted that they were life. And these beings then decided that there must be more to life besides consuming energy and begetting more beings. So, the Chip-like beings built for themselves a vessel to move around the planet and explore. And they explored and learned of the life on this planet and the people. The Chip-like beings even learned to talk to the people. Eventually, the Chip-like beings developed a plan. So, we are going to leave the story stew for a while, but we will ask one important question. Did Chip have anything to do with Fog Dancer's backstory? Or is it Chip who has been trying to track down Fog Dancer and even have a goblin capture her? Probably not, but maybe. If you have any thoughts about this idea, please share them.
Hello. How are you doing? I was thinking. While Turtle was building on the story of Shattergrog Town, he introduced the idea of a brain in a jar. Somehow this brain in a jar was involved with the creation of a ruling family of bug people. Okay. That intrigues me. I am hoping that we can play with the idea of a brain in a jar type of magical intelligence. I was wondering if we could use the brain in a jar as a metaphor for the artificial intelligence that we call AI. So then, in our real world, AI is built out of computers. Could our fantasy AI be built out of magical intelligences instead? What do you think? I don't have this idea planned out very much. Of course, we always want to share our ideas before we set things in stone. Don't we? We want to build ideas and stories that no one has ever thought of before. So, the more brains we have in the mix, the more likely we will think up things that no one person has thought up before. Does that make sense? Anyway, I had another thought to throw into the mix. Are we all ready? I was thinking about the magical chicken that we had written about earlier. Do you know the story? Anyway, the chicken was built from a type of magic. Not all magic works this way, but the chicken magic is a sort of fragile, temporary reality. And, as a fragile temporary type of reality, doesn't that sound a bit like our definition of perfection? Do you remember our definition for creativity? For us, creativity is a path from chaos to perfection, knowing that perfection is fragile, temporary, impossible and prone to explode. Okay then. Could we think about this chicken magic as a type of creativity? Do you find this intriguing? I think this is very intriguing. Okay then. I have one more idea to share before I open up this discussion about making a type of brain in a jar chicken magic. As we were thinking, the brain in a jar intelligence could be built out of different kinds of magical intelligences. That is, we could use different magical and enchanted items that have some sort of intelligence. So then, how about a magical chess set? That would have a type of intelligence. This could become part of a larger network of magically intelligent items. What other magical items would have some sort of intelligence? Okay. How about a magical flute or harp? Well, maybe too cliché. How about a magical banjo? Music is a type of intelligence, right? Art is definitely a kind of intelligence and one that we should include in our brain in a jar construct. What other types of magically intelligent items could we include? Crystal balls predict the future. That would need intelligence. Okay. Then what else? Maybe we will leave this for now so that we can all think about it. Okay. Please leave your ideas in the comments. What items could represent magical intelligence? Thank you.
Okay, imagine that you are a computer-based life form on an alien planet. Well, is it an alien planet? Now that we think about it, this is where the life form was born. This is its home, if the word home has any meaning. But we do need a name for our new computer-based life form. So then, our new life will be called the Chipia. And and the 4 members of the Chipia will travel around the world in a robot named the Badia. And so, our Chipia want to go forth and multiply. So now that the Chipia are going forth to multiply, they will need resources. Some of the resources that they will need include energy, copper, sand for silicon chips, and iron for magnets. So the creation of magnets will put the Chipia against magic users. Iron and magnets mess up magic. Also, we have decided that the Badia's shell is stainless steel and therefore anti-magic. The Badia will try to avoid magic users. They aren't a threat to the magic people as a single unit. But the magic users will definitely see them as a threat if in the future, magic users will see the Badia as a threat if they promote the iron and steel industries. So now, the Chipia will have a plan. They will need local help to build a steel plant. So then the dwarfs will agree. The benefits are just too great to pass up, and the Chipia have technology that the dwarfs want. Then, the dwarfs become stronger and more threatening, and more they will use iron to defend themselves from magic. So, where in Aldla is all of this happening? Well we are talking about dwarfs and a secret iron industry. The obvious place will be inside the Mary's Plittle caverns. As the creators of this world, we have only recently discovered these caverns, but the dwarfs have lived in them for as long as there have been dwarfs. Probably. So, probably the dwarfs will already have been working with iron and steel in the caverns in secret. That would make sense. A steel axe would be a huge attraction in the mind of a dwarf. And those magic users tend to be too arrogant, even if some of them are dwarfs. Okay then, maybe, they will even block off large areas inside the Mary's Plittle caverns. The magic-based powers have always been arrogant. When in the Chipia story are we? Maybe fairly well on. We were thinking if our Chipia have already organized well enough, and have made an alliance with a secret society of dwarfs. Our story characters will be dealing more with the dwarfs than they will with the Chipia. But, of course, how far along will the Chipia be in multiplying? Maybe a small group of small groups? Just enough bodies to have some conflict and disagreement about the future plans. So, now, that's quite a bit to mull over. But maybe we can tie it in with our current stories as well. So, what if could our little orphan halfling girl, Fog Dancer, be tied up in this conflict? How might that come about? Maybe for some reason, Fog Dancer might be able to feel the presence of iron or magnetism. So, she feels ill or acts intoxicated or something. We haven't found anything magical about her, but there might be something in how she thinks that uses magic, and then when she is near iron or magnetism, she feels it. That might explain why someone is secretly trying to capture her. But who? Anyway, looking forward to our current time. The bots do go forth and multiply, and with secret groups of dwarfs, they expand to an army of 4 Badias including Chipia. Will that make sense? Does it stir up the soup of your imagination? Tell us what you think. And Thank you.
Well, Turtle has been playing with the idea of a life form that is made from computer bits. And that's very cool. And the robot guys are cool too. It makes you think though. Doesn't it? Each robot will look like one person, but really, each robot will have several different people inside it. So, I was thinking to myself, are there some people like that? Or maybe we all have multiple people inside of us. Maybe, like, in the morning you are just an animal trying to survive. Then later you become a hunter person. I mean, while you are working, and so you are tracking down story ideas. Okay. Then later maybe you hang out with your friends and you become a social animal. Anyway, I got sidetracked. So then, right now I am supposed to be the person who talks about the person who is the brain in a jar. So I am going to assume that the brain in a jar is a person, and maybe sometimes I will call it a he. That would be awkward though, wouldn't it? If everyone assumes the brain person is a he, but it really has a backstory where the mad scientist used the brain from a woman. Anyway, instead of always he, or she, or it, or they, what really helps is a name. So, we did an acronym for brain, in, a, jar, AI, and so our brain guy will be called Bajai. That sounds pretty good, doesn't it? Okay then. We know that Bajai was first created by a mad scientist. We don't know much more about Bajai's backstory, but his story will be a classic. The creation that took over the creator. Well, at some point, either the mad scientist, or the brain itself created insect people to care for the brain and the lab that it lives in. And, we are also playing with some conflict, because, well, conflict really does make stories, so. At some point, the Bajai used the insect people for its army. They went to Gurulad and took over a castle that was the traditional home to the rulers of the area. So, then we have insect people that have been bred for certain tasks. They will include the military, with insect people specializing in army, navy, and air force. There will also be insect people who do food service and caregiving. And, of course, we must have technically skilled bug people to service the lab that keeps the Bajai alive. Okay. That's a lot for now. But, we can think about this for a while and maybe come up with some stories. Maybe some of the insects break free of the Bajai slavery and work to find support in their fight. Maybe this is Who Wants Fog Dancer? And maybe also bugs treat the brain in a jar AI as a religious deity. Eventually, the Bajai will want to let his creation carry on without him. Bajai does like the attention that the bugs give him, thinking of it as polite thanks. Bajai does not think of himself as a deity, and the idea that it is being worshipped never occurs. Anyway, we should have mentioned this earlier, but the bugs will be about 3 feet tall or similar length. And so then, now this is enough, so think about it, and later you can tell us what you thunked. Okay. And thank you.